Hi guys, thanks for joining me. I realized I haven't done a plant room tour in a long time. I was just down here tidying up and giving just a little bit of water to my cacti and succulent collection, and I wanted to show you what's going on. There's some good and some bad. It looks like my handling of the mealybugs has been successful. I don't see any more, and I gave everything a big spray down with neem oil about a month ago, and I've been watching things, and it doesn't look like anything else got them, and it looks like the plants that I treated are doing much better. So hopefully the mealybug infestation didn't get into any of the soil. So let me show you what's going on down here. I have been giving the plants a little bit of water, just kind of sprinkling here and there, waking them up very slowly. You don't want to drench them right away after they've been dormant. But I basically started watering them when I saw growth, and I was selectively watering at first. But when I saw growth like this, for example, the Apontias seem to wake up first, or at least visibly wake up. So that's a brand new pad on an Apontia back there. But for the most part, you know, this one has, oh, I see a little teeny mealybug. I'll have to take care of that. But this one, you can see the new growth is white. So little by little, each of the plants are starting to show interest in waking up. So I guess they are judging from the little bit of light that gets in from this window that the days are getting longer, and plants are so smart that way. So let me get started showing you what we have here. And my collection has dwindled quite a bit. I didn't do very much plant shopping since coronavirus started. So, you know, these are all the survivors from what I've collected over the last couple years. And hopefully this year I'll be able to add to the collection a little bit more. But let me show you what's going on here. I have a spice cactus, which I had pruned here thinking that it would bush out, and it never did until this year. And now I'm looking, and I hope you can see it on film, but there's new growth. So those very skinny pieces are the new growth. Here, up here, it's very skinny, and then this is skinny, and all of this will plump out once it matures, but it's finally doing some branching. And just on a side note, most of these plants get a little bit of sun from the window, but then they get overhead fluorescence. So it's not ideal. I don't have grow lights, but the fluorescent light is enough to keep them alive while they're dormant. And maybe you don't want really bright lights when they're supposed to be inactive. So it works for me. The only thing about this room is it's not very cool. So, you know, it is a heated space, and I think I'd have more flowers if my collection was allowed to cool down in the winter. But you know, it is what it is. I'm just happy that this many are still alive. And then I have back here a dish garden, and everything in here made it. Everything's looking really, really great. Starting to wake up. This guy's so prickly. But that's doing well. And then I think that's a gymnocalycium back there, and it had some kind of damage. It was either mealybug or spider mite, but it's still growing. I mean, it'll be scarred, but it's still a healthy plant, and it actually grows every year, so I just let it do its thing. And I have a little aloe there blending into the soil. But I'm just going to kind of scan over things and make a few comments. This one I just gave some water. It was looking a little shriveled. Like I said, the Apontias wake up sooner than some of the other ones. But it does have 2 new pads here. And my Nodo Cactus look good. My gymnocalycium seemed to have made it through the winter. This one got kind of skinny. It's usually a ball shape, and it did get kind of skinny. So I've watered that, given it a little bit of water a couple of times. So it should plump back up. And then everything else is doing pretty well. I'm starting to see more green. For example, this one here, my Mammillaria Negepanthus, the silver arrows. It's very, very green at the top. I think that's new growth. And like I said, my Stenosarius plants have new white growth at the top, so that's promising. And all the Apontias are putting up new pads back there, doing well. The one that looks like a mess is my really furry one, the Apontia Snow, I think it's called. It falls over. It's quite a mess. It still looks healthy, but you know, it's kind of hard to tell under all that hair. But that's doing okay. Oh, and here's an update on my Echinobivia. This one had, and always does, every year it gets mealybugs, and I was able to successfully treat that, which was not easy, and I was able to save the pups as well. The last infestation it had, I had to remove all the pups, and that made me very sad, but this was successful enough that I didn't have to remove any of the pups. So it's doing well, continuing to thrive. And I have my Oreosarius trolii, just a little small one there, doing fine. And this looks okay, but I'm not sure about this one. It's maybe it's just its winter dormancy color. It's not soft or anything, but it did get darker. So we'll see. That's just kind of a simple dish garden with 2 cactus. And it did have more in it, but we lost 1 or 2. So it's just a very simple arrangement now. And every year I bring in my string of bananas and it looks horrible. And I have kept it watered here and there throughout the winter. It hasn't been deprived of water, but this is what happens. I don't even know if it's going to come back. Very little of it is green. So these hanging succulents are tricky when you bring them in and out. They don't always like to have that happen. So we'll see. I don't know if that'll rebound or if it'll end up in the compost heap. I'll let you know what happens. And just to show you, I have the string of pearls had to get a major haircut. Same thing happened. All the ends got brown and died, even though it was in a sunny window. They just don't like to come in and out. But that one looks a lot better. There's a lot more green on there, and it will grow quickly in the spring and summer. And I have faith that that one will come back. So I'm not worried about that, but my string of bananas looks terrible. One that doesn't give me a lot of trouble is this one, the Sedum, I think it's Morganii, but it's the donkey tail sedum, and other than when you move it, the leaves fall off, which is perfectly natural. This one seems to do consistently well inside or out, so that's one that I do like. But the string of pearls is very finicky about being moved inside and out, and the string of bananas has just been a disaster on that front. And then let me show you, oh, these are my big, let me back up, my big spider plants, and they're surviving. They're glorious when I put them outside in the spring and summer. They absolutely get huge and glorious and do really well. There's 2 different kinds. There's one behind it. It's a little hard for me to access, but one is white with green edges, and then the other one is green with white edges. But they just kind of survive here throughout the winter and don't look their best until they go outdoors. But they live here with the cacti, which means sometimes they don't get watered as regularly, since most of my cactus were dry for at least 3 months, probably 3.5 months or more. And so they get a little bit overlooked, but they do fine. They do fine for the winter, and they'll look great this summer. And I forgot to show you this garden. This little dish garden will need some work. It's got a great aloe in the middle. which is falling over. So I think it's time to put that one in its own pot. It's hardly even anchored into the soil. But there's some Haworthias here that are doing really well. I actually think this is their growing season. So several Haworthias that got a little dried out, but they're doing fine. And then there's a couple of beautiful little aloes under here. So obviously there'll be a spring fix-up for this dish garden. And these, I don't even know how they're alive. I found them on the bottom shelf. I'm going to give them a really good water today, but I don't know how they've survived. I think I completely forgot them in the space they were in, and they only have the tiniest bit of soil, but that's the miracle of succulents. It's just amazing. And here is the poinsettia, which I made a big deal over trying to keep alive. But guess what, guys? As horrible as it looks, all of the stems are still green, and I'm going to keep it down here in the sunny window. Some people say that fresh air really helps a poinsettia grow, so I'll see. Maybe I'll give it some fresh air in the spring. I have to evaluate that when the time comes. But look, it's still green. It's not gorgeous, but it is green and living. So maybe I can say I've met my goal of keeping a poinsettia alive. It's not exactly thriving, and it's lost all of the red, almost all of the red leaves, so, or bracts. I guess they're called bracts. And then I have a couple of little cacti over here. This one got etiolated, but it looks like it's putting on a whole new baby at the top. Kind of interesting. So everything over here is doing well. This dish garden has some that didn't survive. I have a couple of cacti that I have to take out. This one I think is just spines. I don't think there's anything left in here, this particular guy right here. But I do have a nice little plump one there. And this one over here is doing fine, although it's leaning sideways, but that's its growth habit. This one is doing horrible. This one's very easy to shrivel. It's the Apontia Brazilianis. And I'm not so sure how hard I'm going to work to save that. It just always looks horrible. And it injures me every time I try to handle the pot. No matter how careful I am, I get these huge spines in my hand. So, you know, if it doesn't come back this spring, I'm not going to be too broken up about that one. And then I have mostly doing well here, a nice collection of cacti. I have one little guy falling over here, so we'll have to figure that out. But they're all doing really well. Different collection of things. And then this little guy is finally greening up. He was yellow for most of the year. And I potted it down, and I'm going to be really fertilizing it this spring, but finally it's getting a little bit of green back. So it looks like I may have saved that one. We'll see. It's a barrel type cactus. And then over here I have my golden barrels. And they're doing well. Now there is some brown kind of in there. It's very hard to tell. But I'm not sure if that was just some dehydration or some type of bug damage, but it was sprayed down with neem oil because that one's almost impossible to, you know, hand pick any bugs. I actually never saw any bugs on it, but it's still overall healthy, and it's putting on a whole bunch of new growth up here, so I'm not too worried about it. Just going to keep an eye on it. And I have another golden barrel here doing really well. And then I have a long spindly aloe, which I think I'll probably take a cutting and cut back, see if the bottom part roots, but I'll definitely plant this up in a situation where it doesn't have this gigantic long stem, because that's not very attractive. And then I have a pot here with a bunch of Haworthia. And it could use a little bit of cleaning up, but I just gave it a nice water. So, you know, all my dish gardens will get a good cleanup when spring arrives. And I have my terrible looking corn cob cactus back there. It does have two nice pups here, and I was thinking of just taking those pups off and kind of starting over and doing away with the ratty bottom here. It looks terrible, it looks unhealthy, and it looks like it has mealybugs. It does not. That's just a white section of the cactus. I think it's a scar. But I think I'm going to take off those top two, and maybe I'll do a little video on drying them out and repotting them up. So we'll see. It kind of looks like a rabbit. I've always liked that structure, but I think it's time for me to say goodbye to the bottom part of that. And then back here, like I said, are my Apontias behind all these spider plant babies. That one's doing really well. And let's see, back here, there is a brand new pad growing on that Apontia. So again, I love Apontias in the spring. They really make me feel like spring is coming. And this one doesn't look so great. This is my Apontia Violace. But it's alive, so hopefully once I get it outside, it's going to appreciate that. And we'll see if it makes a new pad this year. And then I have an assortment of cactus over here. I'm kind of shooting into the sunlight, even though it's an overcast day. This is the Pachypodium I just repotted, and so far so good. Likes its new pot. I think I'll rotate it. It's leaning a little bit. That's another thing that gets overlooked a little bit in the winter, is rotating your plants. But I put it in a nice sunny location, and because it came out of water, I have been giving it quite a bit of water. And then I have a few Pilosarius along here, and a Mammillaria along there, and a couple of San Pedro cactus cuttings, very skinny. So I'm hoping they'll take root and plump up. I did those in the fall. So they're still alive, but I don't know what their root situation is, but they're doing fine. Just kind of babies, baby San Pedros. And here's my donkey tail sedum again. And a beautiful, I believe this is a Nodo Cactus. This is doing really well. And it's still in its nursery pot. And I am trying to follow a practice of not repotting everything when I get it home. I think they, if they're happy in that pot, I'm just going to let them be until it's time for them to upsize in pot size. Go up in pot size, I should say. But I'm trying to use that practice. Keep them in their nursery pot until they need uppotting. And then here's a little bit here of my rat tail cuttings. And over here, this has done really well. I forgot to highlight this. It's done fantastic. If you remember, I did, I kind of rejuvenated my rat tail cactus and planted all the cuttings. And it has taken really well. And it continues to look good throughout the winter, throughout its winter dormancy. I hope you can see it under my spider plant, but it's doing really well. So that, I just love that plant. That one's easy, and it seems to like my setup. And then I have a nice aloe here, which got quite dehydrated. You can see it's very indented here, but that'll plump up. And it's doing fine. It's overwintered well. It's looking good. And then I have a couple of very messy, I think these are aloes here. Sometimes aloes and haworthias look very similar. And then at the end here are my Gasterias. And they're in kind of an antique pot. This is also an antique pot, by the way. I kind of like those green antique pots. But there's a little spider web in there, but just a regular spider. I'm not going to worry about it. But there's my Gasteria, looking a little bit puny. And I have a little Haworthia dish garden here, which needs a little love. All my dish gardens need a little love. And I'm excited to show you, oh, this is my Plumosa in a pickle jar, and it's almost gotten too tall. As you can see, I might be opening up the top. But it's still doing well. I'll zoom in so you can see all the leaves. It seems to like the humidity level in there. And then over here I have an orchid, and I'm excited to say it's got a new bloom stalk. So I'm not sure if I've ever rebloomed an orchid. I can't remember. I don't think I have. So this is a big event here. And when that blooms, I'll bring it upstairs and put it in a window, sunny window up there to enjoy. But while it's not blooming, I let it live in this window because it's so happy there. And the thing about orchids is they have to have a spot where they're happy. Like they can't just settle. They need the prime spot to be happy and to put up blooms. They're just the right amount of light. And the last thing I'll show you here is, I have to back up if I can, are my geraniums that I saved. So this is sort of a gardening side note here. But these were my geranium stalks, and I've just made sure that the soil doesn't dry out too much. And it's not even in a lot of soil. But when I put it back in soil and planted it up, gave it some water, and put it in this sunny window, it's not very sunny today, but most days it is sunny, it came back like gangbusters. So I'm going to be able to plant those outside. So they're living down here with the cacti and succulent collection and my spider plants right now, but doing fantastic. So guys, that's sort of a quick overview. Well, it wasn't that quick, but an overview about how things are doing. I did lose a couple of plants. I don't even specifically remember, but every winter I end up having to throw away one or two dead plants that just can't handle the overwintering process without getting water, without getting great light. These are my strongest plants that can survive these conditions. And that's why I love succulents and cacti. So many of them are just survivors. No matter what you throw at them, they're going to survive. Unless you're a string of bananas. Like I said, that's a disappointment. But overall, I have to say I'm pretty happy with how most of the collection has overwintered. So guys, thanks so much for tuning in for the late winter. We're almost at spring. Another couple weeks, spring will be here. And in about a month or month and a half, all these guys will be out enjoying the polytunnel and the warmth and fresh air. But thanks so much for joining me for this small update and plant room tour. And I hope you're enjoying your plant collection and are as excited about spring as I am. Thanks for tuning in.